When Pokemon X and Y were released, I got my copy straight away. I'd been avidly scanning the press releases and links for months before. I'd seen the new Pokemon, snapshots of the new region, leaks about mechanics. But what intrigued me most was something I hadn't seen, but knew must be there. Every generation had it, its own clutch of spooky areas, all stemming from Red and Blue's legendary Lavender Town. I've always loved Halloween and the spooky side of life. My heart began to pound with scared excitement as I entered Route 14 and saw those creepy bare tree branches arching over the path, like fingers waiting to snatch me. I quivered with anticipation when I ran into my first haunter, knowing the location I craved was so near. And there it was, by a group of gravestones no less. My NPC friends from the game leading me to it. The scary house. This was it, my favorite part of every Pokemon game. I entered the house and saw the old man. Was he a ghost? No, but a teller of a ghost story. I was in heaven. He told us his story. It was better than anything that had come before in a Pokemon game. It wasn't a lame tale about cycling road, but a real spooky story about a menacing horde of faceless men. I was enthralled, but then disappointed. That was it. I tipped the man to show him my thanks, but I wanted more. Would I have got it if I hadn't tipped him more scare, more spooky adventure? I'd never know. I revisited the house every night since, desperate for something else to happen. This had been too quick and too empty. Nothing did happen, though. The NPC old man just spouted his same dialogue that some things are best left unknown, and that the truth is best carried to the grave. But still I returned, night after night, out of habit more than anything else. I liked the spooky environment around that house and found it a suitable spot to train ghost Pokemon. Soon I had a whole party of them. So I would train, visit the house, and train some more. I began to treat the scary house as a sort of base camp, as a home, desperate to somehow attach more significance to it. But nothing significant ever happened. I talked to the man, but the words never changed. Some things are best left unknown. The truth is best carried to the grave. Even I began to tire of the place, until, just on the night I decided to move on, to leave the scary house. Something did happen, or rather, a more noticeable brand of nothing did. I entered the scary house, and all went black on the screen. There was no sound. Pressing the buttons did nothing. My 3DS light was on, but aside from that, it looked dead. I refused to believe the mundanity that this was merely a systems crash. I desperately wished for it to be something more sinister and scary. How foolish I was. I left the game on in that blank state for the longest time, praying for something more to happen, but the blackness was infinite, and I eventually gave up and switched my game off. Nothing else happened then. I hurriedly switched my 3DS back on and loaded up Pokemon. The same loading screen appeared, and after selecting continue, I found my character outside the scary house, which was strange, as that wasn't where I'd last saved it. With my veins pulsing with excitement, I entered the scary house once more. The same thing happened. The same black screen. Again, I waited for more, mashed every button, but nothing. From then on, every time I restarted my game, I would be outside the scary house, and every time I went inside, the game would die. As the days passed, what had started out as something that quickened my pulse soon became something to irritate me. It was as though the game had simply grown tired of rendering the scary house for me, and now refused to do so. Finally, one dark Thursday evening, I threw my 3DS down on my bed in exasperation as the game once more crashed upon entering the scary house. I gave up on it, left it to do the work on my computer I'd been neglecting. I was behind on my projects and worked for many hours, burning the midnight oil to try and catch up. But then, I thought it was my exhaustion playing tricks on me at first, but no. There came a definite sound. A strange, strangled, high-pitched series of tones and crackles. I recognized it at once. It was the sound unknowns made. I leapt to my game. The screen was still blank, but the music was definitely coming from the system. My hands were shaking as I reached for the console. At last, something was happening. But the moment my hands touched the DS, the unknown music stopped. There was a brief pause of nothing, and then I saw it, reflected in the blackness of the screen, a faceless man standing right behind me. I whirled around, only to see nothing but my bedroom wall. My breathing was ragged and shallow. I felt cold, but I stole myself to do what I knew I must do. I turned slowly back around to my game, and saw what I knew I would see. The faceless man was there again, and though he had no face, I was sure he was smiling. I ran into my door, out of my door, running madly, bashing against the walls as I raced to my back door. I threw myself out into the night and took in long, heaving breaths of the frozen air. The sounds of the world came back to me, though I hadn't been aware that they'd gone. It was easy now, away from the game in the open air, to rationalize. I had been tired and obsessed with spooky things. I had imagined a reflection. It wasn't real. Then I glanced towards my house, and the world stopped once more. The faceless man was behind me, reflected in the window. He was laughing now. I turned around, but my eyes only met the trees. I looked into the window once more. There were two of them now. Two faceless men. One was still laughing without a mouth. The other whispered things to me. Terrible things, things I can't repeat. For some things are best left unknown, and the truth is best carried to the grave. I broke down, fell to my knees. I knew I couldn't run. I was trapped in a nightmare. I told everyone I knew. No one believed. I suppose being institutionalized was inevitable. The faceless men keep me company. My cell is small, but they all manage to fit in somehow. They whisper to me. Terrible things. Unspeakable horrors. Some things are best left unknown. The truth is best carried to the grave. And I know, when one of the men does finally raise his haunted hand to my shoulder, that this is where I shall be carried.